Good evening and welcome to the Gold Goats and Guns Hour here on YouTube and DLive. My name is Tom Luongo. It is Monday, October 14th, 2019. Hope you're all having a good day. We got a lot to talk about tonight. Tonight I want to talk about Joker. We're gonna go. I know there's a lot to talk about geopolitically and all of that stuff, but this is kind of important, and I don't do this all that often because I don't go to see a whole lot of movies every year on a daily. I don't go to see a whole lot of movies anymore, and I think the ones I do go to see are usually worth my time. And we're going to talk about that tonight and why I think Joker's an interesting movie to come out at this moment in time. And yeah, we're going to talk about that tonight. But as always, you can follow my work over at tomluongo.me, which is where my blog, Gold Goats and Guns, exists. You can find me once a week over at strategicculture.com, and I have the lead story there to staff this morning talking about the various operations against various currency pegs going on around the world right now. You can follow me once a week over at moneyandmarkets.com as well, where I do what I normally do, except tie it directly to the markets. And of course, you can find me on Twitter at TFL1728 and on Patreon at patreon.com/goldgoatsandguns, where you can sign up for the Gold Goats and Guns investment newsletter, or just sign up for the twice weekly market reports, which I do. Which are basically private video podcasts for all of my patrons, where we go over the regular markets. We go over various important markets and news of the week. And I usually give talking points there first before I bring them out into the general public. All right. That being said, let's talk about Joker. It's an interesting movie. It's not perfect. I'm going to start with the review portion of the movie. I was captivated completely up until about the last 10 minutes. And not because the last 10 minutes are bad, but only because they fell a little flat. And for those of you who've seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about when I say that the climax of the movie, he missed the mark on how complete Arthur's transformation into the Joker was. As a longtime and ridiculous Batman fan, and a man who, and the thing is here is that I don't even believe in any way that they were trying to subvert the Joker or do something weird with it. The whole various takes on the characters within the DC mythos have been done for years. They call them Elseworlds stories, and they're and sometimes they're very, very good, and sometimes they're not. They've seen the Joker reimagined in 1,800 different ways, and all of them interesting. And I think the original Elseworlds book that was originally written was, I think, The Killing Joke, which is the seminal Batman Joker story, with the Joker's origin story, and was done by DC, the Warner Brothers Animation Studios, a couple of years ago, into a kind of an average movie, but not bad, but not good either. But Joker as a film, as a piece of filmmaking, is really interesting. And as a 2 hours worth of social commentary, nearly spot on perfect. I just wish they had nailed him becoming the Joker at the end of the movie. And the Joker can't become the Joker unless he makes everybody laugh while he's killing them. That's the point. So if I had been the screenwriter, I know I would have rewritten. If I had been the script doctor, I would have rewritten the last scene. Or not the last scene, but the climactic scene. It was a little too on the nose. It was a little too much to the screenwriter getting lazy and telling everybody what the punchline was and the message of the movie, when they'd already made their point 18,000 different ways from the middle at that point. So it's a failure of it's obviously one of those things where they got to the end of that draft and said, well, we got an October release date. This is what we're going with. And it happens. That being said, Joaquin Phoenix is fantastic. The story itself is it's horrifying. Not because it's horrific in terms of the violence or anything else. It's horrifying because of what it says about our society and how badly our institutions have failed. Movie set in the 1970s, which is fascinating because that's when the real malaise of Gotham City, i.e. New York, existed, happened. It's when New York was at the height of its at the height of its terribleness, right? We had the West Side Highway falling down. The city was bankrupt. Son of Sam, because in some ways the Joker becomes an amalgam of like Son of Sam and the garbage strike and Bernie Getz and and it evokes all of these things. And of course it evokes Taxi Driver and Martin Scorsese's very marginal The King of Comedy. It does all of those things. It's like it's hitting all of these notes throughout the last 45 years of film history, spanning all of, really in many ways, spanning all of Scorsese's career. And of course, Scorsese is winds up being an uncredited producer on the movie, but I know that he was involved in the gestation of the movie. It's got him written all over it, which is great, which is fine with me. I love Scorsese's work, even when I don't agree with it, or even when I don't like it. But what this movie does is paints for us the picture of who the perfect villain is for our age. The Chinese will not like this movie, Sandy. Let's not play this game. This movie was not made for them. So this movie was made for us. This movie was made as a warning. So he's a guy who is sick on every medication you can ask for, has been abused, this, that. I mean, all, and the thing about it is that at every level, the standard Hollywood leftist trope of all of the things that are wrong with society, the 1% getting away with everything, all of this stuff, that every bad leftist trope that you've seen thrown around, every anti-capitalist leftist trope you've ever seen thrown in a movie, winds up being subverted in the end. Completely. And in the end, really, the army of Antifa that the Joker winds up leading into hell and unleashing hell, they're not the heroes. This is not the end of V for Vendetta. This is the opposite of that. In V for Vendetta, right, we had the old institutional order was blown up, right? Parliament was blown up, and the old institution was blown up. All institutions of order was blown up, and everybody showed up to watch it happen, even though they weren't sure what was going to happen tomorrow. They all came anonymously in their little V masks, right? And the state eventually backed down because the state can't shoot everyone, right? In this movie, it's the exact reverse of that. It's the exact opposite of the ending of V for Vendetta. The crazies have won. They've taken over the asylum. They're burning the city to the ground. Because their champion, the Joker, just committed mass murder on public television. So we've got the network thing going on too. And I'm not giving anything away here. Let's not kid ourselves. Spoilers are not interesting. If you're going to go see this movie, you kind of have to know that at the end of the day, the Joker is going to become the villain. And he's not the hero. But the image systems around him, ironically, will portray him as that in his own mind as we go along. And there's a lot of great stuff here in terms of whether we know what is and what isn't real. This movie doesn't even try to play the game of, well, this is fantasy world and that's not fantasy world. It takes its cues directly from movies like Fight Club and others, which give you zero clues. Pictorially or photographically as to what's going on. as to what's real and what's not. There's no change in focus or filter or anything along those lines, or your lens being used or anything like that. There's no idea. You have to literally guess for yourself the entire time what is and what is not real. Because he's crazy. From the moment the movie opens, he's the Joker. What he's doing the entire time, and this is the saddest part of the movie, this is what the movie's actually trying, this is why the movie is actually a really strong piece of work, because he's the Joker. He just won't admit it to himself from the moment the movie starts. He keeps wanting to see himself as someone who can function within this society, even though he can't function within this society. The only way he can function is with the minimal support structure that he's got around him. A crazy mother, his mostly disinterested social worker, the 7 medications that he's on, the crappy job he has as a street clown, all of this stuff. But he's trying to make it work, even though he knows the world has fucked him over, even though he knows the world doesn't give a fuck about him. In so many scenes in the movie, he's dressed up like a fucking clown, for Christ's sake, and he's one of those clowns on the streets, and the first scene we see him in. And people just ignore it. The only people who actually show him any, who give him any attention whatsoever are the thieves, who steal his sign, and then he goes and runs after them again. He gets beat up by that sign and then by them. But everybody else, he's like a cipher. He doesn't exist. And he even says at one point, it's like, for most of my life, I wondered whether I actually existed as a real person or not. And it's fascinating. I've read fiction that plays with this idea all the time. I've read like the Stephen Donaldson's Mirror of Her Dreams, The Man Rides Through. Mordaunt Sneed runs with a character who literally doubts her own existence for most of the story. And it's that lack of identity that actually winds up being her power. He's invisible and sad and pathetic. Powerless. He's beat up constantly. He's weak. This is the point of the Joker. The Joker is weak. But it's through his weakness that he's ultimately strong, because once he's free, once he realizes that none of this matters, all of this struggle to try and become the person that everybody wants him to become and to be able to fit in, once it goes, yes, the sign itself, everything must go, the whole world must go. Once he realizes, doesn't matter, then he's free. Now he can become the Joker. Now he can become who he truly is on the inside the entire time. He's holding it back the entire movie. It's a great, great performance by Joaquin Phoenix. And that's the portrait of what happens. This is the villain that we're creating. This is the villain that our society, I hate to say it, this is the villain the society deserves. We're going to get this guy. And we have to get this guy if we're going to tear this society down and rebuild it. Someone has to point all of this out. Someone has to point out the hypocrisy of it all. Someone has to point out the ludicrousness of it all. From the banking system to the corporate culture, to the environmentalism, to the unsustainability of the way we produce and sell and distribute goods, all of it, the way we interact with each other, the lack of culture, family, community, church, all of it, it's all gone. This is the world without it. I was arguing with a friend of mine last night about this. He's like, I'll go see it eventually. I'm not giving Hollywood any more of my money because I'm tired of watching these terrible people create image systems and create stories that aren't nourishing or aren't interesting or they're not going to teach me anything. And I could be doing other things with my time that are more nourishing. I'm like, that's fair. I happen to disagree with you, but certainly from my perspective as a person who's, steeped in the how are we going to play the culture war, right? How are we going to navigate it? How are we going to survive it with our kids? How are we going to invest relative to it? How are we going to make rational choices with our lives? I don't have the opportunity here to pull a John Galt or an Owen Benjamin and go fuck off and raise goats. I've already tried that. It didn't work. I got news for you. It doesn't work. Okay? And what's fascinating is that the movie is telling us that the white male incel who's on 18 different medications and is mentally ill is the leader of Antifa. We don't want justice, we want mercy. You're right, Mark Bogosian. Even Arthur in the movie does not want justice. He just wants some amount of care. He wants someone to care about him. Someone to treat him like a human. He's never been treated like a human. And we are building a society, and we're building a political narrative structure that says if you're straight, white, and male, that you don't matter. Everybody, different strokes for different folks. It's at the end of the day, El Vaquero says he's not going to watch it until he doesn't have to pay. I refuse to throw any money Hollywood's way. It's fine. It's your prerogative. You can do that. But I think you miss something when you're not part of the zeitgeist, because Joker's part of the zeitgeist now. He's part of the shared communal experience that we have as touchstones in all of these things. It's like people who've never seen Star Wars. I game with a guy who's young and has never seen Star Wars and doesn't get it. He likes all the games, but he doesn't like get it. We play board games and he kicks ass playing Outer Rim. It's kind of crazy. But you got to understand is that not everything they do is garbage, and even the garbage they put out is worth talking about. Like I love listening to Jordan Peterson rip on Frozen, for example, which he fucking hates because it's Disney doing its level best to destroy every good and decent thing about primal archetypal storytelling. It subverts all the archetypes. It's culture destroying at its fucking core. On the other side, it's the same studio that can then turn right around and make Mary Poppins Returns, which does the exact opposite and celebrates all of those things in every functional, fundamental way. As the entertainment industry becomes more fractured, and it is becoming more fractured, right? Most of us who were my age or a little younger, we grew up in this era of going to see the movies, going to see a particular movie, or we all watching the same shows because there were only 3 or 4 channels networks when we grew up. So there was only a little bit of stuff being watched, right? We can't possibly consume all the content that's being produced today. We can't even possibly consume all the good content that's being produced today. The good content by any cultural definition of good. No less the garbage that they're parading in front of us, right? We can't even possibly watch it all. And then, of course, there's the opportunity cost of if you're watching that, then you're not reading this, or you're not learning this trade, or you're not playing this, you're not doing these things with your family, you're not learning to play an instrument, or whatever you're doing, right? And some other thing that would nourish your soul and build community and build connections with people, right? It's all valid criticisms of sitting down and watching movies. I only really like watching TV with my wife. I love watching TV and films with my wife. Why? Because we're both fucking writers, or at least in her case, she's a great story editor. I'm a reasonably good storyteller, and the two of us sit there and we just break them down, see whether they're valid or not. That's what we spend our time doing when we're watching a movie. And to us, even when the movie sucks, we're like, oh, I know why it sucks. And we can figure it out, and we can go, well, they got that right, but they got this wrong, and this is what they should have done. But otherwise, it was fine, And then we do that. And we do that with every movie we watch, but that's because that's what nourishes our relationship, because it's that constant conversation that Camille and I have been having for the last 30 years about these issues that makes our marriage work. So for me, it's like watching a movie, sitting down and watching a movie, even spending $4 on a rental, which I don't rarely do. I usually I usually pull stuff off the Pirate Bay and watch it that way because, again, I give them as little money as possible simply because, I can. I have an avenue for it, and I'm willing to deal with it. So I don't give a shit. I'll do it. Fire up the VPN, do the thing, get what I want, move on with my life. They weren't going to get my money otherwise, so fuck them. And then sit down with my wife and chat about these things. So Joker was something we were going to go see simply because it was something we needed to go see. Especially in my position, I get to write this shit off of my taxes. I don't give a shit. Like, I didn't pay $37 for 2 tickets yesterday. I paid $20 because I'm going to write 40% off it. I'm not going to pay 40% in taxes on it, so I'm good, right? Like everybody says, don't give your enemies your money. Well, here's the thing, and this is the part I'm gonna make you. No, you should write. Don't pull that back, Kalamal. No way. You're right. The argument is don't give your enemies your money. Well, here's the thing. If I spend $20 going to the movies or $30 going to the movies and watch something that I can then leverage by talking to 250,000 fucking people to and saying, you know something? Fuck Disney over this, or no, Disney did it right, or whatever it is. I have the opportunity now, and we all do. I have the opportunity now to drive more value culturally than the money I put into it. And that's the thing you have to understand. Okay? Your opinion matters, and it matters more than the $20 you put on the table. The effect you have amongst your circle of friends and amongst your family and your friends and everything else, it matters. That feedback, if the only feedback they get is that, people don't go to see that, then they got to come up with something different, and then they come up with something even shallower or even less interesting. And it's important at the end of the day to not get caught up in the virtue signaling, because all you're really doing is virtue signaling. Like, if it's a movie you're interested in seeing, I mean, if you really don't like stories or the way they tell stories in Hollywood, but movies are a particularly powerful source of storytelling. It's the marriage of pictures and sound has a unique ability to affect the human brain, for good or for ill. Okay, for good or for ill. I'm not going to argue that it can be used for evil. It has been used for evil. It will continue to be used for evil. It is for us and for our subconscious to work on whether or not it's worth our time or not. I am a better person for having seen Star Wars. I'm a better person for having seen Blade Runner. A better person for having seen Brazil. I'm a better person for having seen Patton, Unforgiven, Dr. Strangelove, Casablanca, Citizen Kane, Full Metal Jacket, The Outlaw Josie Wales, Dirty Harry. I can go down the list. Breaker Morant. I can go down the list of so many movies that have had a powerful effect on my life. Mary Poppins Returns. Mary Poppins. For all of its faults in terms of pacing, which I think the original Mary Poppins is about 15 minutes too fucking long, but Tim Cutler says, okay, I'll watch it. Let's get the China Fed, Brexit, and impeachment. I didn't say I was going to talk about any of those things tonight. Alien. Terminator 2. Even though, again, a little on the nose at the end, right? These are movies that, I'm glad I saw. The Matrix, obviously. V for Vendetta. They live, guys. I mean, seriously, they live, right? The Big Lebowski, Miller's Crossing. I can name a half dozen Coen Brothers movies that my life has been enriched by. Even when they're movies I don't want to remember. So Stoyanovich asks, I have to ask your opinion, Tom. Was the last talking scene him relating everything as a delusional story? It's a good question. I don't know. I'd like to know. I don't think A Clockwork Orange is important. I think I've come to the conclusion that, like Stanley Kubrick, I think I almost agree with Stanley Kubrick that Clockwork Orange was not necessary. But I still appreciate it, but I love books too. And I love the movies that can't be made into books. Wasn't Pelosi in They Live? I think she was, actually. I mean, again, I'm a huge Stephen Donaldson fan. None of his books have been made into films. You know why? He won't give them fucking rights to Hollywood because he doesn't want them to ruin them. Fight Club. Unbelievable fucking movie. Yes, The Wizard of Oz. We can go on and on and on. How many of these movies have changed your life or made your life better? Now, should movies change your life or make your life? The fucking Fellowship of the Ring. Are you kidding me? One of the most singularly powerful movies ever made. It was the only movie I've watched post 22 that viscerally affected me. Everything else has been kind of, it's an intellectual thing. I mean, I get caught up in stories. I'm a very open person. I watch movies. I get sucked into the worst movies imaginable. I'm good at it, except for Iron Man 2, which I just fucking walked out of. But the first Lord of the Rings film is the best. Avatar was garbage. I was 20 minutes in, I'm like, the fairies start flying, the sprites start flying around him. She's like, and as they're walking towards the town, I'm like, or the city, and I'm like, because he is the Kwisatz Haderach. I'm like, this is fucking Christ. It's goddamn Dune, for Christ's sake. I could not, for the life of me, believe that Avatar was as lazily written as it was. Now, The Fellowship of the Ring is one of the most beautiful screenplays ever written, especially the extended edition thereof. It is literally one of the best screenplays I've ever seen. I've ever seen. Oh my God, Yojimbo! Are you kidding? The Seven Samurai, great movies. Hidden Fortress, unbelievable movie. Come on. Spellbinding. The first Lord of the Rings, standing there with Frodo. Every time Frodo standing there on the edge of the river with the hand out, with the ring in his hand, and that horrible look on his face. He's got the ring in his hand. And he's just and that one musical note comes. That those four notes come in, and every time the waterworks just happen every time. I've watched the movie 40 freaking times. I still cry every goddamn time we get to the end of the Fellowship of the Ring. Every freaking time. And then he takes the ring, puts it in his pocket, and goes. Are you kidding me? You wish you had half the strength that he did. Every time. I'm fucking tearing up now every time I think about it. It's a spinal reaction for me every time I watch that movie. Went to see the Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings was the Fellowship of the Ring is the only movie I've been to the theaters to see in the theaters more than Star Wars. I've seen Star Wars in the theaters, I don't know, 11, 13, 14 times. Something. Not Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring 9 times in 3 weeks. Ridiculous how good that movie is. I have never seen Blue Velvet, Doug Murray. I am remiss to say that I do not particularly like David Lynch, so I never did sit down and watch Blue Velvet. Sorry. The Matrix is a biography. The Matrix is Ubik. Yeah, no, I own freaking on fucking Blu-ray. I own A Fistful of Dollars for a few dollars more. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. They're unbelievable movies. All Monty Python stuff is great. The Princess Bride is an amazing movie. El Vaquero, you and me are the same. Which is, he said in Lord of the Rings, I wish they had included the part in the ending where the hobbits had to take the Shire back from Saruman. Now, this will get you on a little bit of a rant here, and I'm sorry tonight if we're going to talk movies and you guys aren't particularly interested in that. That's fine with me. If I were making the Lord of the Rings, I would not have made a war movie. Peter Jackson specifically said that he wanted to make a war movie, and so he focused on the war as the mechanism by which to tell the story and how to bring Aragorn of age and all of that stuff. Had I been telling the story, I would have told the story from the Hobbit's point of view, the same way Tolkien had, because Tolkien, as a Catholic anarchist, me as a ex-Catholic anarchist, understands that the Scouring of the Shire, which is the chapter that you're talking about, Alvacara, where they have to take the Shire back from Saruman, understand that that is the most important battle in the entire story. It's the story. It's what this story is all about. It's about the hobbits who left home to defend their homeland, and then they still had to take it back from the evils of fucking socialism that refused to give up the fucking dream. And then they had to go in and save their homeland and restore anarchic beauty on their home, to their home, and fight for it and be willing to fight for it. And take it back from the spiteful, power-mad son of a bitch who just wanted to destroy them. I saw The Princess Bride in the theaters as well. I saw Brazil in the theaters, dude. I got one up on you. I'm like only one of 40 people in America who saw Brazil in the theater. Lady Hawk was fun. I wouldn't say it was like a life-changing movie, but it was fun. I mean, we can do this all day. Sling Blade is a great movie. Monty Python's The Holy Grail, quotable from beginning to end. So is Life of Brian. Lady Hawk is very underrated. It's a very good movie. Don't get me wrong. And look, guys, Richard Donner knows how to make always knows how to make an unbelievably entertaining movie, even with lesser material. Lady Hawk is not lesser material. Okay, it's not lesser material. It's actually some of the best material he ever worked with. But even with lesser material, Jesus Christ, I mean, like Maverick. Oh my God, he did unbelievable work with Maverick. Why? He had a great cast. Kayla Mall says movies are full of propaganda. They've always been full of propaganda. If you guys have not seen, Kayla Mall, do me a favor. If you've not seen Hail Caesar by the Coen brothers, do yourself a favor. When I'm done talking, go rent it, go buy it on the Blu-ray off of Amazon or whatever, and watch it, because it is the amalgam. It's a postcard to 1950s filmmaking and communism. And the fucking Comintern communist plot to take over Hollywood. It's fucking brilliant and life-affirming all at the same time. It's amazing. Clint Eastwood is a great director and a great actor, and always have room for him. You do, Mark? Yes, I knew Mark. Yes, Mark Bogosian has seen Brazil in the theaters. I love it. Awesome. Clint has made some of the best American films of all time. Absolute American classics. I didn't even watch so Ready to Snap says I watched Avengers Infinity War this week, and I found myself fast forwarding to get to the end. I feel that way about just about every Marvel movie, like, to be honest with you. The first time I dropped acid, I went to see Fellini's Satyricon, says KB Works. Well, wow. I do love Hitchcock. Yes. Vertigo, Rear Window, North by Northwest, The Birds, Psycho. They're all great. They're all great. I've only seen most of those movies. I've seen maybe once or twice. I think I've watched them more than that. And Rope. Rope I've watched more than once. Rope is amazing. And yes, North by Northwest is a great movie. But I think Rope is probably my favorite. Because it's about socialism. It's about statism. Do goats like kale? Asked Freedom Fox 1. I don't know. I don't think I've ever fed my goats kale, because we won't have the shit anywhere near us. Most likely they do, because it's high in protein. The Rocky Horror Picture Show I don't like. Sorry, not even as a like. I never got that thing. My goats are fine. Gran Torino was good, a little small C, but a good movie. I mean, that's Clint's second tier work is always watchable. And I put in Clint's second tier work, I put movies like Gran Torino, True Crime, Blood Work, the later Dirty Harry movies like Sudden Impact and all of them. His top tier work for me is Unforgiven, Outlaw Josie Wales, Pale Rider, not Mystic River, $1 Million Baby, the Flags of Our Fathers, and what did he do? There's a couple of them that he did recently that are really, really good. I haven't seen everything he's done recently, but I always try to see Clint's movies in the theaters. You give him the money. But they're all really good. He's a tremendous director. Is Hail Caesar the one with George Clooney? It is. It's hysterical. It's so funny, and it's so spot on. Let's see. I mean, guys, how often do I quote Patton? Right? $1 Million Baby is a beautiful movie. Absolutely gorgeous. Clint's made so many great movies that I can't even. He's honestly, he's going to go down. High Plains Drifter is a great film. It is. There's very few Coen Brothers movies that are not on the list of great movies. I'm not a huge Frank Capra fan because I'm not a big fan of Capra's vision of America. Unfortunately, Sayanovich, I don't believe in that Spielbergian Capra-esque version of America. And Capra's films have always fallen a little hollow for me, to be honest with you. But the Coen Brothers, Miller's Crossing, Fargo, Big Lebowski, obviously. There's so many, I can't even remember them all at this point. True Grit, their remake of True Grit is amazing. Inside Llewyn Davis is superlative. Have I watched Cynic Doge New York or American Psycho? I have seen American Psycho. I have A Serious Man. I still haven't watched it yet. I have not seen Cynic Doge. I do like Soderbergh when he's not being an overt communist. So, The Sting, George Roy Hill. The Sting is a great movie. Chinatown is a great movie. Yes. Chinatown says so many things. That's also one of the best screenplays ever written. I mean, just is. But Blade Runner 2049, guys, is one of the great movies of the 21st century. It may even be better than the original. Bone Tomahawk is really good. Unforgiven is absolutely Clint Eastwood's best movie. Without a doubt. Because it's got the best screenwriter. It's got David Peoples. David Peoples, who made Blade Runner into a viable screenplay. Yes. Yeah, it was a second tier Eastwood's Paint Your Wagon, not Paint Your Welcome. Paint Your Wagon with him and Lee Marvin singing. Yes, it wasn't great. I didn't really like The Two Jakes. It was okay. I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it was as bad as people made it out to be. I think it's underrated, but I didn't have a I wasn't against it. I didn't think it was up to Chinatown. But yeah, I liked Bone Tomahawk, though it was. I don't want to watch it again, and I have no desire to watch Joker again. By the way, and I mean I don't usually say that about movies that I really like. Right. Movies I like, I will watch more than once. I have no desire to watch Joker again. I don't feel any need to. I got what I needed to get out of the movie, and I'm not in that mode of my life where I want to rewatch movies that I think I need that are disturbing 3 or 4 or 5 times. I don't need to do that anymore. I'll be honest with you. I think Rise of the Planet of the Apes is an unbelievable film. Not Rise, the second one. The second one. What's not War of the Planet of the Apes? The second one. What the hell is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes? The first Matt Reeves movie. The second one in the new trilogy. Fantastic movie. Really, really good. Really, really good. Right. Network is freaking genius. I will grant you completely. Play Misty for me is really good. The Beguiled is very good. Coogan's Bluff is okay. Not bad. But yeah, I mean, I can do this all night. But, you know, go back to the Coen Brothers. I mean, yeah, Raising Arizona is great. Blood Simple is an amazing first film, though I wouldn't really say it's a great movie. I don't like Barton Fink. I think it's garbage. Miller's Crossing is their best movie. The Hudsucker Proxy is okay. Right? Fargo is outstanding. The Man Who Wasn't There is eh. Intolerable Cruelty is them doing like for hire work, which is kind of scary. Okay, CS. I'll check that out. I've heard about it. I have not watched it. Casablanca. I think I mentioned Casablanca earlier. I do love Casablanca. I think it's a great movie. I think it's got a lot. It's got a lot to say. It's well written. It's well produced. It's well acted. It's all good, and it's got the right. And you know, its heart's in the right place. Guys, the animated Beauty and the Beast is a beautiful film. mean, like, it's a beautiful film. The one from the 80s? Oh, yeah, the 80s. Not the live action. Not the live action reboots. Those are unnecessary. Okay. But I'm definitely an 80s child. I mean, have I watched a Werner Herzog? Oh, maybe a little bit. Maybe one. Maybe a long time ago. It's like, like talk to me about Jim Jarmusch. I've seen 2 or 3 of his films, and I can't really remember many of my. Dead Man is fun. But, and the new one, the new Jarmusch movie, the zombie movie, I do want to see. It's a Wonderful Life is okay. Mad Max is a great film. But I think The Road Warrior is better. And the reason is that The Road Warrior this is where we get into mythology, and this is where we get into where the Road Warrior, as a visceral piece of storytelling, and as a kind of an iconic piece of storytelling, I think is I think the Road Warrior takes it one step further, and I really like what he did there. Serenity's okay, but nothing Joss Whedon is particularly deep. So, but if you guys have not seen Blade Runner 2049, I'm dead serious. Like, Blade Runner is one of those movies that I remember seeing Blade Runner in the theaters when it first came out. I was like waited 6 months for the movie to come out. When it finally came out, and I saw all these terrible reviews and how much people hated it, I'm like, what the fuck? I went to see it. I went, my jaw was, I'm 13 or 14. I'm 14. Pulling my jaw off the freaking ground, for Christ's sake. And Blade Runner 2049 is really, really good. I mean, really good. And obviously Star Wars. And what's my opinion of Spielberg? Somebody asked me that a while ago. My opinion of Spielberg, well, is complicated. I think when Spielberg is at his best, he's keeping it simple. When he stretches himself, and Spielberg is like Capra. He refuses to allow the story to go where it needs to go. He always inserts himself in it at some point. Like the first 3 hours of Schindler's List is I got done watching that for the first time, and I just sat there for 20 minutes after the movie was over and cried. I went to see it with a friend of mine at like a midnight show. It was 3:30 in the morning, for Christ's sake, and he's like falling asleep, and I'm like, dude, I can't leave yet because I can't drive. I can't even get up. But when you back up and you watch Schindler's List again, you realize that he editorializes during the last 2 scenes, and he allows the mask to slip, and then he tells you what the story's about, and he grandstands a little bit, which was unnecessary. And then he redeems himself in the post-credits scene during the credits when the Schindler Jews are all walking through and placing stones on Schindler's grave, and then that old woman pats the stone twice, the headstone twice. Never forget this. Pats the stone twice and moves on. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. So, but I think Spielberg's best work, I don't know. I liked AI more and more. I liked AI the second time I watched it. I watched it recently, and I appreciated it more because I'm a father now, and because I now understand what they were going for. And I think Kubrick would have done a better job with it. But then again, from what I understand, and having watched enough material about it now, he grandstanded and okay, I'll back up for a second. So about Schindler's List, that scene at the end of the movie where there's Schindler with all of the prisoners, and then the Nazis, and the war is over, and the Nazis are in the room, and then he makes his grand speech about how, you have a choice to make now, blah blah, and it's all grandstanding. That didn't happen. Okay? There was never that moment. And he broke narrative. He broke narrative consistency. This is an editorial film. This is a newsreel style on the ground film. And then he sets up a classic Capra-esque Spielbergian editorializing ending. And it was just a little cheap. See, all y'all who hate The Last Jedi are just wrong. Rian Johnson is actually brilliant. And The Last Jedi is unbelievably fucking brilliant. I mean, he does Luke Skywalker the ultimate compliment. He breaks him down, then he builds him up, and then he turns him into fucking Jesus. It's like, are you kidding me? How much more do you need? I know you guys don't agree with it, but you're wrong. And it's just the way it is. And until you actually get past the bullshit and look at the movie as the movie exists, get past all of it, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But you have to care. You have to care about the characters that were set up in The Force Awakens. You have to care about the problem. You have to care about this. And if The Force Awakens didn't work for you, which worked for me brilliantly, then The Last Jedi is going to be hard to accept. But the more I think about The Last Jedi, and the more Camille and I sit down and we review what Johnson has done, because we keep talking about this. This is a conversation that goes on all the time in my house. Because I'm still trying to figure out why you guys hate it so much. Even though I keep seeing more and more and more in it that makes it exactly the movie we needed, exactly the Star Wars movie we needed at this moment in time. Artists get there first, guys. I'm telling you. And I'm not just saying this to be a douchebag. I'm not just saying this to be contrary or because I got my Star Wars goggles on. I'm telling you this sincerely as somebody who's broken the movie down symbolically, archetypally, as from a screenplay. I've broken the fucking movie down 18 ways from Sunday, and it still stands up. And every time I break it down, it gets better, not worse. But if you're unwilling to look past what you consider surface flaws, because you're not fucking 13 anymore, I can't help you. Because you're missing out on what I think is one of the probably close to one of the most singularly beautiful experiences in Star Wars. Because this is a franchise with a whole lot of crap and moments of brilliance. The first movie is brilliant. The second movie is mostly brilliant. The Return of the Jedi is 30 minutes of brilliance and an hour and 45 minutes of fan fiction. Less said about the sequels, the better, except that it gets all of its archetypes right. It gets all of its imagery right. It gets everything else wrong. So watch them as silent movies, and they're brilliant. Just turn off the fucking dialogue so you don't have to suffer through it. Because it's abysmal. I can't watch them anymore. Because the dialogue is just that bad. But the visuals are fine. The story works if you watch them as silent movies, because Lucas is a director who can, as a director and as a photographer and as a shot framer, Lucas is brilliant and can literally tell you stories in silent film form. I just watched THX 1138 the other day for the first time in years. It's a silent movie. There's no goddamn dialogue in that movie that matters. It's practically a silent movie. It wasn't a teardown exercise, Stoyanovich. You're wrong. I'm telling you, everybody who thinks that Rian Johnson just went off on on a fucking tangent doesn't understand what the actual fucking story is, because you don't understand what the story is. And I mean this sincerely. The story you think that The Force Awakens was telling you and setting up for you wasn't the fucking story. The Last Jedi confirms this. J.J. Abrams was in the fucking script sessions, for Christ's sake, guys. They had a plan. They have an arc. But what they weren't going to do was they weren't going to like lay it out in grave fucking detail for everybody to paint by numbers with. Because that's not how you get your best work out of some of the best young directors in Hollywood. And argue with me if you like or not, but Rian Johnson is one of the best young directors in Hollywood. Period. And I would argue so is J.J. Abrams. I've watched enough Abrams work at this point. The guy's really good. He may shoot bad scripts. The guy's good. The guy's Star Trek reboot was fucking phenomenal. I just watched MI3 the other day. I'm like, why did everybody not like this movie? This movie was great. But I'm dead serious. Brick and Looper were fantastic. Greg Rockenberger, did you not? I mean, dude, seriously, what's wrong with me? What? I don't understand. Like, I don't care. Like, Leia Poppins. Like, you didn't think in 40 years Leia wouldn't have learned how to use the Force? You didn't think that Leia wouldn't care so much about wanting to survive in order to do her job, to see her job, to see her life's work continue, that she wouldn't want to survive? I don't know. I don't understand, guys. Like, they popped that fucking cherry a season before in Rebels, for Christ's sake. Fucking Kanan gets sucked out an airlock and survives for 30 seconds in space. Rogue One was surprisingly good because Tony Gilroy took it away from Gareth Edwards and made it good. Luke almost killing his nephew in cold blood. I know you can't handle any of that stuff. He didn't almost kill his nephew in cold blood. Luke had a moment of weakness, which everybody does. Luke had a moment of weakness. He sat there. He said it. And in that one moment, I'll tell you, what do you think is happening here? He saw Palpatine and got triggered. I'm telling you, that's what's going to happen. You're going to find this out, that Luke saw the shadow of Palpatine on Ben, and he got triggered. And for a second, he had the exact same reaction he had to Palpatine when Palpatine sprang his trap on him in Return of the Jedi. Remember what Luke did then? Rian Johnson didn't pull anything out of Luke's character that wasn't already there. And I've said this 1,000 times. I'll say it again. When was the last shot of Luke? What's the last shot of in Return of the Jedi of Luke with his lightsaber? Throwing it away. Last shot of Luke with his lightsaber in Return of the Jedi is him throwing it away and saying, "No, you failed, Your Highness. I'm a Jedi like my father before me." When he's presented with that lightsaber again, given now what we know, what he almost did with his lightsaber, the next time he almost struck in anger, and Rey hands it to him. You watched the movie, but you didn't see it. Or you just don't care about Luke's story. Because it's right there in front of you. I'm not sacrilegious because I don't think Star Trek is a particularly good ethos or story or world, so I don't give a shit. I thought the J.J. Abrams Star Treks were fine. I even liked Into Darkness because I didn't give a crap, because I have nothing vested in Star Trek. I never have. I've never liked the world. I've never believed in the world. It's just shit socialism. It's just leftism in space. Woo! Yay! We can't have conflict amongst the crew because, socialism. Fuck a whole lot of Star Trek. So I thought it was fun. It is in service of a decent arc. Think of it this way: even if we don't find out that Luke saw the touch of Palpatine on Kylo Ren, he saw something, and he had that moment of, oh my god. And come on, man, in 37 years and with 25 years of intervening history, which we don't know, we have no idea what Luke went through at that point. Just think about it. It's perfectly reasonable for somebody to make a bad decision. Are you going to tell me that when you came of age at 22 or 23 and that you didn't make any mistakes between then and 45? if you're telling me that's the case, you're telling me you didn't make a mistake and you didn't come home one day and take out your bad mood on your dog or some stupid shit like that. You're gonna tell me that you completely integrated your shadow at 22 years old and you're with it and hip with the fucking world. You're gonna tell me that that's who you are and that you want to place that on Luke Skywalker. You're out of your fucking mind, and I think you're full of shit. Because everybody has a dark side, and everybody who argues about the Last Jedi from that perspective are people who don't want to accept the fact that Luke has a dark side just like everybody else. He nearly turns to the dark side because he nearly kills his father. If Palpatine had kept his fucking mouth shut, Palpatine would have won. Luke was not trained. He's got fucking PTSD. His dad was the fucking mass murderer of the universe. He spent 5 years, he spent his formative years fighting a fucking civil war. Come on, man. Go take yourself out of fucking fairy tale land and get down to who these characters actually are. This is what I love about the new movies. This is what I love so much about the new movies, is that they treat Han, Leia, Luke, hopefully Lando, they treat them like real people and not as pure archetypes like Lucas did in the original films. The original films are fairy tales. The new movies are not fairy tales. And the reason they're not fairy tales is because we don't need a goddamn fairy tale today. We needed a fairy tale back in the 1970s, which is what Lucas gave us, and I am eternally grateful to him for it. In the 1990s, we didn't need a fairy tale. We needed a primer on how fucking republics fail, because our republic was in the process of failing. Or do we not want to admit that that's what's going on today? Now, today, we are in the chaos period. We're in the post-institutional order breakdown period. Going right back to what we talked about at the beginning of the stream, Joker is the villain that is created during this type of institutional breakdown. What kind of hero do we build out of that breakdown? And are the characters who created who helped bring about the change in the last institutional breakdown? Remember, Han, Luke, and Leia did not win a war during the institutional breakdown. Right? They didn't win that war. That wasn't their story. The Empire was at its ascendant height. They were the ones who broke the institutional order and made it and broke it down. The kids we're seeing today, Kylo Ren, Rey, Finn, Poe, all these people, this story today is what happens once the institutional order has reached rock fucking bottom. It's the chaos period. It's like Star Wars ends the same way The Wizard of Oz ends. Dorothy fucks off back to Kansas. Meanwhile, Oz is left going, who the fuck's in charge? And Star Wars ends the exact same way. The Emperor's dead. Now what? 37 years worth of post-institutional order breakdown. Leia presides over the same... It just extends the conflict for 35 years, trying to rebuild the old institutional order, the old republic, as the new republic. It's not working. Why wouldn't it work? Because maybe the people who were shaped by the war and by the old republic breaking down are the wrong people to bring about the new institutional order. That makes sense to me. And we're living in an age today. The movies today are supposed to be reflective of where we are in the world today, where we are in our cycle. That's what art's supposed to do. That's what movies are supposed to do. The good ones reflect that of us. And the middle part of a trilogy of that, telling us that story, is going to be kind of ugly, kind of tough to deal with. And this goes for all of them. I feel the exact same way about Mary Poppins Returns. If Mary Poppins Returns had come in and just done Mary Poppins again, I mean, it did structurally do Mary Poppins again, but it didn't do it thematically. Thematically, it's about what happens after the banks take over everything. And we saw, remember, in Mary Poppins, there's a bank run. The bank is actually in the process of becoming irretrievably corrupt. Mary Poppins Returns, we fast forward to 20 years, and guess what? The banks have become irretrievably corrupt and have created the Great Depression. And now the families and the next generation of banks are in institutional, are living through this, and their household is upside down, and Mary Poppins has to come in and help them find their way. That's the story. It's no different than the original story. The father has lost his way. The children are in charge of the house. Institutional order is upset, and it's her job to reassert order, to reassert that by introducing a little chaos, a little constructive chaos into the mix, because that's who she is. It's brilliant. It's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Maybe the songs are a little on the nose, but so what? They're well written. I'll go with it. And Emily Blunt is amazing. The Last Jedi is the hard film to watch. Just like The Empire Strikes Back was the hard film for us to watch when we were kids. John Fordham, you pretty much captured Spielberg for me. Spielberg is insufferably sentimental. And Vice Admiral Holdo, yeah, she was irritating. She was meant to be irritating. That was her job. And you wouldn't, and God knows, guys, if the Vice Admiral Holdo was a man, there wouldn't have been any, it would have been a completely different dynamic between her and Poe. And Poe wouldn't have been the good guy. We wouldn't have agreed with Poe. Because we accept the male hierarchy. He would have looked like an asshole challenging a male officer. The male-female dynamic there was intended on purpose. Because he was willing to back Leia, but he wasn't willing to back Holdo. It was done on purpose. Because Poe had to realize, and you can argue with the arc whether you like it or not, that's fine. But actually, at the end of the day, and here's the other thing. If Holdo was a completely irredeemable character, she and Leia would have never had that moment when, after the coup, right after the mutiny, and Poe's being carted off onto the shuttle, and they said, he's trouble. I kind of like him. Yeah. They didn't hold a grudge against him because they knew they still needed him. Because the women in this scenario, in this situation, understood that this is a survival situation and everybody's a resource. And in a survival situation, everything is a resource, including the hothead. Ask yourself if that had been Russell Crowe, for example. Would that have played as well? I don't think so. And I don't think anybody, but I also don't think that the fucking incels would have such a goddamn problem with it either. There you go. That's what I think about that. Zero Dark 30 was 100% propaganda. Did not see it and knew it. Same thing with Black Hawk Down. Wouldn't watch that either. Though I love Ridley Scott, but I only like Ridley Scott when he's doing good work. She might have been condescending, but it doesn't matter. The Mary Sue is not too strong with these movies. Go over Luke's story again and tell me that Luke is any less of a Mary Sue than fucking Rey is. Period. Because what reason was there for Holdo to withhold her plan? That's easy. It's simple. And it was exactly what I thought the first time I watched the movie when I was watching it the first time. They got tracked through hyperspace and they don't know how they did it. So is there a spy? Do they have any clue as to what's going on? So if they've got this plan and there's a spy on board, maybe they should keep this plan fucking secret. Seemed perfectly reasonable to me the first time I watched the movie. Because you know what? I wasn't triggered by Laura Dern's fucking purple hair. I was watching the movie. Like, that's serious. There's so many people I know were just fucking triggered by her purple hair, which was fucking Rian Johnson's point, by the way. Don't let the rapper fool you. Benicio del Toro says that in the movie. Don't let the rapper fool you, son. Me and First Order codage go way back, or whatever the fuck he says. Seriously. I mean, if I got a problem with the movie, it's Benicio del Toro doing the friggin', fucked up speech shit, which he always does. Like, that I had a problem with. But even that I can let it go. I'm dead serious. Holdo's purple hair was a dog whistle to see, and me personally, is a litmus test. And maybe Rian Johnson is an insufferable fucking lefty. Doesn't matter. He got all of his archetypes right. He got everybody in where they belong in that story. Literally, he turns Luke Skywalker into Jesus. Do you understand? Luke does not raise his lightsaber in anger in the entire movie. It's calculated. He doesn't even cross swords with Kylo Ren, virtually. And then he sacrifices himself so that others may live to tell the tale. He's fucking Jesus Christ. You wanted a better ending than that? How much more did you want from the guy? The Last Jedi is a recitation on the idea that violence cannot always solve, that some problems are not solved by violence and most problems aren't solved by violence. And in this case, are absolutely not solved by violence, because it was the threat of violence, which was the inciting incident for the entire series, which was told as the midpoint turn for the entire series. We didn't find out what the inciting incident was for the entire series until the midpoint turn of The Last Jedi, which of course would then be the midpoint turn of the entire 3-movie arc. That is good writing, not bad writing. That's brilliant fucking writing. Because, hey, I got 4 friggin' Hunger Games films, the first 2 of which were very good, by the way, where the inciting incident is right there. Minute 7, like it's supposed to be in the first friggin' movie. And then everything else is just, we go on from there. These films are so meticulously constructed, they put the inciting incident at the midpoint of the story. You don't think they're working their asses off here? You don't think they're doing their best work? I got news for you. J.J. Abrams will never do better work than he's doing right now for Lucasfilm. Rian Johnson, ooh, that's a different story. That guy's supremely fucking talented. Rey was untrained and not credible. So was Luke. Luke, trained with Obi-Wan for an hour and a half? I think this trip to Alderaan was 7 hours long. But somehow he has enough strength, he has enough ability to blow up the fucking Death Star? Really? Really? Rey accessed the dark side to beat a wounded, on-tilt, nearly broken Kylo Ren. And she accessed the dark side, guys. And if you go watch The Force Awakens again, it's pretty obvious. She's got the same look on her face as Luke does as he's standing over Vader at the end of Return of the Jedi. I got a blog post about this, and I went and found the frame, and I went and found the frame, and I put them side by side. There's a great shot of Rey standing over him with the lightsaber and a scowl on her face. And it's the same goddamn look and the same fucking shot that Luke has when he's standing there with a fleck of spittle on his lips after he's beating his father down. It's the same goddamn shot. She accessed the dark side. She didn't know what to do. She beat him with raw power. Stephen Burnage, the original Matrix is an unbelievably well-written movie, and they should have never made the other 2. Oh well. It's an hour and 9 minutes in. Only The Last Jedi can get me to go over an hour. That's how good the movie is. I've watched it 11 times. It gets better and better every time I watch it. Absolutely. All right, guys. I'm done. Oh, I think Daisy Ridley is fantastic as Rey. I think she's unbelievable. Adam Driver, you can make the argument that he's improperly, he was miscast. I don't think so. I just think it's a very difficult part. One of these days, you guys will come around. You will see what I'm talking about with The Last Jedi, but you gotta let the hate go. You do. You gotta embrace it. Because the movie is a complete love letter to every Star Wars fan who's ever walked the face of the earth. Every one of them. And everyone who trashes that movie is doing the movie a disservice, because the movie was literally a big fucking love letter to you. And I think that's the tragedy in all of it. And I think that guy, given $800 million to make three great movies, I think he'll make the 3 best Star Wars movies we could ever possibly see. Without a doubt. All right, you guys take care. You have a great night. If you like what you heard tonight, even if you didn't like what you heard tonight, even if you hate The Last Jedi, give a like and subscribe down below. It's good. We'll work on it. We'll keep working on it. We'll keep having this conversation. One of these days, maybe I can get you. Maybe, just maybe, I can get you to see the light. All right, talk to you later. Be good. Keep your stick on the